So I was motivated to approach this project through my work with our student innovators and entrepreneurs. I've been at BC for 21 years now, and we've seen an extreme of one student had brought their group project, raised $7 million in capital, and within 9 months launched 3 Super Bowl ads, but in another 9 months the business was gone. But on the other extreme, we've had a student and their BC roommate build a $400 million business. So and all in between, there have been scores of students that have had different degrees of success. But what we've seen is, the biggest limiting factor for a student innovator is not necessarily their idea, but it's a lack of skills to build their vision. So, we really wanted to move our students from being wantrepreneurs into entrepreneurs. And the way to do that, while all entrepreneurs aren't going to be tech entrepreneurs, we're in the golden age of collegiate entrepreneurship because of technology. And on the faculty side, we wanted to take what was one of the heaviest lifting courses and turn it into one of the lightest lifting courses. So on the student side, what we've experimented with and what really seems to work out is using the flipped classroom approach. Learning a technical skill like programming is often a challenge for students because students learn at different paces and different levels. There are some students that understand computational logic right away. There are other students that really need repetition. And in a flipped classroom environment, what we've done is captured the lectures in videos where the students are actually learning by programming along with the professor's lecture. So it's no more chalk and talk or watching a professor code. And what students are able to do is rewind. They can actually play the lectures faster if they would like to. They can go back to notes if they're struggling with a particular concept. And then what we do when students come to class is they go through exercises. So it's flipped because homework is during class time. Now, what's wonderful about this is that it tests students on concepts that hopefully they've acquired. And we also encourage student collaboration. So they work with one another. They lean over to their neighbor and ask for help. That really seems to fit with the ethos that we have on campus for students working together and helping one another. Now, on the faculty side, the way that this is really advantageous is the faculty don't prep lectures anymore. The lectures are delivered through videos outside of class. And what faculty do in class is they introduce a bunch of exercises. And the students will go through, the faculty already have the answers for this. So you probably spend less time than you've ever before in terms of class prep and class sort of maintenance. What's also nice about this too is, programming classes tend to demand a lot of student interaction. Students run into problems or they struggle to grasp concepts, but because we have so many online videos, the students are able to get a lot of help outside of classroom, and I'm finding that the interaction that I get with students that show up is really at a much higher level. So they're able to really pinpoint, I understand this, but I don't understand this, or I've seen the video and this is a struggle. And for me as an author, it's really great to see that as well, because I can get a sense of what I need to improve for the next iteration of the text too. So the flipped classroom approach that we use takes what would normally be introduced during in-class lectures in a conventional class. We capture that on video, and that's actually how students spend their time outside of class. And that works really well in a class where students are learning computational logic and how to do something with a computer, because they can go back and rewind and solidify concepts, speed up if they feel comfortable with concepts. And then what we spend our in-class time together with the faculty member is going through exercises. So what's wonderful is we can do things like say, okay, you've learned how to generate random numbers. This is a Magic 8-Ball app. Go ahead and build it. And releasing that to the students, they collaborate with one another. One of the fun things about this as well is that this is a class where students love to show their homework to their classmates. So I've really enjoyed walking around class and walking around campus and seeing students, at a table in the lunchroom showing, their apps off to their friends and, smiling about what they've done. So that's a real wonderful experience to see students feel so empowered by what they're creating that they want to show it off to others. So this goal to get students to build apps early is, I think, really important for a bunch of reasons. The earlier we can get students building products of substance, the earlier they can experiment as innovators. They're also armed to learn on their own. So I really try to encourage and hold a few slots in the class so that freshmen and sophomore can take the class as well. It's really designed to be a course for first-time programmers. We are getting some senior computer science students take this as well, and we push them quite a bit. But the first part of the class really does focus in on, even though we're building apps, they're learning important concepts of how data is organized or structured or accessed, or how loops and functions work, things like that. And then we run very quickly at concepts of app building as part of this as well. Now, I'm excited to see what's going to happen to the freshmen that have taken this their first year and what they're able to produce by their senior year. Freshmen that take a class like this, it's been wonderful to see them have access to technology internships that normally would not be available to a first semester programming student. We're also seeing the students in my class as being really attractive to entrepreneurs on campus that don't have the technical skills to build their vision. I think what we're doing is creating a new geek culture here at Boston College, and I say that in a very positive and admirable way. The students in computer science at the Computer Science Society, the students behind the Women Innovators Network, they're working hard to create hackathons, to create female founder panels. And this, I think, is part of a broader effort on campus that's increasing the technology profile at BC. We've had very strong technologists at Boston College for years. One of the students that I graduated with co-founded the Netscape Corporation, which was arguably one of the most important developments in the creation of internet-based businesses. We've continued to have students that are on the team of The Leading Game, students that help build Apple TV, the Swift programming language, Apple Maps, that work on Apple Watch. And it's been such a pleasure for me to learn from these students in industry and hopefully to bring them more rocket fuel for building, amazing products in the future. So during the course of students going through the video lectures, they're actually building a series of apps. And it starts out, the first app that they do play some encouraging messages, they put some text in there and some graphics and some sounds, and then they increase in complexity. They do a to-do list, they do a weather app that allows them to get weather from locations throughout the world. It's actually a fun one too, where they can put in their own photos, so on a rainy day they can show family photos of them on a rainy day. So I've had students mention that they've given their app to their parents as part of the class, which is a lot of fun. The last app they do is a social app, which really mimics the Yelp app, where students put in reviews and find locations of different venues and can review restaurants and that type of thing. Now, at the end, we have students actually do their own group projects. So they come up with an original idea, and we have a student app showcase. And this has been wonderful because this is a chance for students to show their creativity. And a lot of them have been working, together, even though they do individual projects. They've been sharing ideas. And we've invited other students, faculty, and alumni in, and administrators too. And it's been wonderful to see, students so proud of the work they've done in this class. Now, there's a bit of a sneaky agenda in inviting alumni in as well, because they get to see our student talent, and several of our students have gotten jobs as a result of this. I've also tried to capture small snippets of videos of students promoting their app or talking about their app in the app showcase, and that's gotten a lot of attention for even folks that haven't had a chance to come to the showcase. So hopefully we'll be a conduit to help our students in the job hunt as well. It's interesting to work on this project and call it a book. I've even struggled with that because you have a notion that you have something that's made of paper, and this is really a product that embraces technology. So because lectures are delivered to students via video, it's essentially a captured video of me teaching students how to code so that they can follow along with it. And that's actually how each section of a chapter in the book, each chapter is building a different app. So students may build 9 apps during the course of the semester. And after the video lecture, there's a reference section, which is essentially the content that you would get in a conventional computer science textbook. What's interesting about doing something online, though, is that the images that you have can be animated as well. So when you're introducing things like loops, where there's sort of a visual reputation or a representation of the computational process, the online text really works very well with that. Also, based on a suggestion from students the first semester that we ran this class, I've not only introduced a bunch of exercises that we often do in class, but every other exercise I have a video solution. So there are many more exercises than a typical faculty member would do during the semester, but it sort of reflects what students used in high school calculus textbooks, where they have the answers in the back for some of the exercises so they can do more in-depth learning on their own or verifying that they understand the concept. So some of the material that we prepared for faculty is not only do they have lectures and the exercises and the answers, but they also have a series of keynote slides, which help them introduce concepts to students that have the answers to the various different exercises. I've even put up review session slides and things like that for them or their teaching assistants to leverage to try to make sure that students are really armed to be able to tackle exams that come forward, and certainly they get exams as part of this package too. One of the interesting things in teaching a flipped class to students is that I've heard from students at all ability levels that they've acquired more knowledge and skills in this class than in a conventional class. They can just absorb things very quickly. The challenge in teaching a very intensive technical class is, if a student misses an early class, they get sick, they're a student athlete, even if you sneeze or sort of run to the restroom, every concept builds on a prior concept, so you can fall behind very quickly. And with all of this captured on video, we're finding that students are able to really absorb more material and absorb it more quickly, and also have resources to go back and make sure that they understood it. So we probably cover in a single class what you would do in maybe 2 semesters. I was a little bit worried we'd be pushing students too much, but the reception on it has just been tremendous from the student side. So creating a project like this presents a whole series of challenges that are different from a conventional textbook that one would write. And the first is just the quantity of videos that one needs to create. It often takes me several times to go through a lecture until I'm at the point where I feel like it's gone smoothly and the presentation is very clear. Also, another challenge that you have is not only in the volume of videos that are recorded, but also the fact that technology constantly changes. So the first time that we had run the class was a year ago, and then between the spring and the fall, Apple regularly introduces new products and new software development environments. So incorporating those changes and figuring out where changes need to be made is also labor intensive. I think one of the nice things, though, is being able to have an outlet where I can take the work that I've done for a conventional class and really create something that can help students and faculty at other universities is an added incentive to spend so much time in a labor-intensive effort. The publisher that I work with is Flat World Knowledge, and I've actually worked with them for several years. They have a managerial textbook that I've written, and they've done a wonderful job of marketing and promoting and finding new markets for this text. It's actually being used by over 300 universities today, including some of the strongest information systems departments in the country, which is really wonderful. Their reach has been important. I know a lot of faculty wonder, should I try to publish on my own? But one of the things that I think is also impressive about Flat World is they have been dedicated to tackling some of the problems that exist in conventional textbook publishing. So the textbook that my online textbook competes with typically sells for over $200 list. Even the rental price is more expensive than the $29 online purchase price for the conventional text. Now the text that I've written now, which calling it a text, but it's loaded with videos as well as a lot of text material and exercises, that's retailing for $25. So the degree of kind of disruption of the conventional publishing process is really significant. And, we're hearing regularly from students, from administrators, the cost of textbooks is too high. Flat World had actually experimented with a freemium model where it was going to be free online and you paid for the print version. But our current students are really comfortable with online texts. And in fact, I think that there's a real advantage to having a readable text on this kind of device. It's with them when they, go home on weekends or when they're on the bus if they're athletes and going to or from an event. So that's been really impactful. And it's nice to sort of wear the white hat. We feel like we're the good guys here as opposed to, so many faculty I know kind of wring their hands at the fact that their textbooks are being sold for $200 or more, which is really common in economics or in management. One of the things I think that is important, though, is for there to be some kind of incentive for faculty. And not to be crass, but there is so much labor intensiveness, especially in a class that involves technology or the business of technology, that annual updates are they're vital for the currency that faculty and that students demand. And without some degree of royalty as an incentive to faculty, this kind of work is outside of the conventional research rewards that a faculty member would receive. So I think if we assume faculty will create content and they'll just give it away for free, where it'll be very labor intensive and there will be no kind of conventional research-driven awards, rewards, that's not going to happen. So finding the right balance between offering something that's affordable, being able to deliver content very, very quickly, meeting the needs of faculty that want to have that kind of currency, but still making sure that faculty can get some kind of incentive or compensation from their scholarly work. Flatworld, I think, has really found the sweet spot there, and I've really been proud to work with them. So working with the publisher, working with Flatworld on this particular project, I capture the videos at home with just standard screen capture software, and they're actually served up through YouTube. So YouTube allows for the public dissemination of video content. This is embedded in a courseware production tool that Flatworld has. So essentially it's the equivalent of an online text word processor where I can go ahead and put in different sections or questions, bullet points, numbered points, as well as not only screenshots or things, but also animations, so animated GIFs. And Flatworld has a particular structure to use, but I also work very closely with an editor who's been just outstanding. They have the product peer-reviewed, they have it quality vetted, they have it edited. So I feel like I'm getting the support that I really need as a faculty member. I mean, all of that stuff is outside of my wheelhouse as a scholar, and being able to rely on them has been wonderful. They're world-class. The people that run that firm have a long history in the publishing industry, and they also want to attack some of the problems and benefit educators as well as students. One of the things that I need to do is we need to put a stake in the ground and say, okay, we've published a version because faculty, while if there's an error in the text, they would want that to be corrected right away, which we can and we have done. Unfortunately, that happens rarely. But also, faculty don't want the content to be a moving target. So you do want to have firm releases at particular times during the year so that a faculty knows what she's going to do for the whole semester, and there's not going to be some content that's going to go away or it's going to change in terms of its approach. When I began teaching this course, I was actually a little nervous because I've never taught a programming class before. I was actually trained as a computer scientist. I have a computer science degree from Boston College, actually in the School of Arts and Sciences. And before going back to my PhD program, I led teams of software developers and was a software developer myself. But getting a PhD in information systems, I never taught programming before, even though we had some hands-on technical skills building in some of the classes that I've taught. So I've had to learn a set of skills as well. And I approach this with a degree of modesty. Also, usually the first semester that you run a class, the evaluations aren't as good as you would hope they were. I was pleasantly surprised. The evaluations for this first semester programming class, where we pushed students more than they have in just about any other class that they've had, their ratings on amount of work were very, very high. The evaluations for the course were also extremely high. In fact, across the board, they've been higher than the managerial course that I've taught, which has gotten, fortunately, very, very high evaluations as well. So I had not expected the class to be as well received as it was. I had hoped that it would be well received, but it's even surpassed those expectations, which have been great. And what I think is also nice, too, is this is an opportunity for me to take things that have been successful and share them with the broader community of information systems as well as computer science scholars. I think everybody has struggled with student motivation, with finding time to be able to introduce topics. We're also seeing a lot of interest in entrepreneurship programs throughout the country too. Many entrepreneurship programs are run by faculty that aren't technologists, but the student entrepreneurs are working with hands-on technologies and they need that kind of support. So this is a product that can be delivered to offer that kind of support that typically entrepreneurship programs don't have baked in. So the primary goal was to produce a learning product that I could use in a flipped classroom environment and then I could share with other faculty. What's interesting about what we get as a result of this is a series of lectures as well as a bunch of exercises and reference material that anybody can use. So essentially you sort of get the lecture part of a course and the textbook all in the box or the virtual box for $25. And we've seen folks outside of our normal community also adopt this as well. So for example, I've even had students that have said, my parent bought the book and is going through class sort of playing the home game version. Or other relatives, I've had alumni write back and say, hey, I'm taking your class again because I've captured the book, which is wonderful. I think that we're going to see this be appealing to online learning environments to boot camp environments. So there are a lot of different ways, as well as individual learners, corporate learners, people that are buying this just on their own. What's also interesting about this approach, though, is I think it underscores the importance of the university as an environment for student learning. There's been a lot of talk about, will the university exist in the future? Can we have all kinds of online learning? The flipped class approach really solidifies the value of in-person learning, and that's through collaborative learning where students work together, they work closely with the professor, they're able to learn from one another, they're able to share the results of their work and benefit from the university's network too in a final project. So what may sound like it's an effort that's delivered largely online actually is one that underscores the value of in-person university education as well. So we're in this unusual time where folks talk about disruption, but I think textbooks are an area where that clearly will happen. The need for a sort of conventional dead tree textbook that students buy a version of has really gone away. You're seeing more and more students rent textbook. There is a vibrant market for used textbooks, which I don't think really benefits the author or the publisher. But a lot of publishing organizations are really bloated, and there's a lot of add-ons or fanciness that faculty don't necessarily use or take advantage of, and that inflate the price of textbooks as well. So thinking about lean market models where faculty can deliver low-cost content quickly, but which is really of a very high quality, I think will serve everyone. One of the interesting changes I think that higher ed will reckon with as well is the incentives around creating content. I continue to research, but a lot of my research agenda has been shifting to figuring out ways to help prepare technologists so that they can be most successful in business or most successful as innovators and entrepreneurs. Figuring out how to reconcile those challenges with the reward system for conventional research is something that I think we're going to see evolve over my next 20 years before I retire as a faculty member. I think there's something else that I really wanted to say about this. I'm really grateful for the help that I've received externally. I am a graduate of the Boston College Computer Science Department, and those folks are extraordinarily strong professionals. I also have some wonderful faculty that have been teaching programming for years that have mentored me and given me a lot of advice on my product too, so I'm really grateful for those folks. And also, alumni have been just so generous. The first individual to hold a new version of the iPhone aloft is a Boston College alumnus, Phil Schiller, who runs marketing at Apple. And Phil has regularly brought our students to visit with him in California. In fact, many of our students now work for Apple, or they have leading positions as technologists. And I'm grateful for what they have taught me, and being able to have a feedback loop where I can capture that knowledge and then figure out how to share that with our community here at Boston College or the broader community of scholars and students has really been a great pleasure. Also, in creating this project and sort of assessing the impact on students, I'm really grateful for the work of the Center for Teaching Excellence. I had realized I was getting outside of my conventional research wheelhouse with this and trying to figure out how impactful this product was and how it was being received by students. Did the flipped classroom approach really work? And John Fitzgibbons and his really talented team at the CTE here at Boston College worked with me. They've designed a study instrument. We've administered it to students, and John actually took the lead. I had a bit of a health issue over the summer, and he actually presented the results at a conference that we had. But it's been wonderful for the CTE to verify, hey, this approach is really being more motivating for students than conventional approaches, that we're having more impact than conventional approaches. And I think that there's an evolving set of research streams that are available to me now because of the CTE. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening on campus. I think some of the things that have happened with the Joystick project or the virtual reality Ulysses project that is being run in the humanities are just amazing examples of what we can accomplish at a university like Boston College. Steve Jobs, when he used to talk about Apple, had said that Apple lies at the intersection between science and the liberal arts. I think with the establishment of the Schiller Institute at BC, we're seeing part of that vision realized. We've been long dedicated to men and women for others and development of the person, and for there to be opportunities for students to recognize that they can capture the opportunity or the ability to impact others through their work as technologists and leverage all of the other wonderful things that we bring in through the development of the person here at Boston College. The liberal arts and the sciences really deserve to live together, and I think that we're going to provide a model for other universities going forward, and it's been just such a pleasure to have so many of our alumni or other faculty or administrators involved in our experiments, and we're fortunate that they've worked well so far, and we'll keep at it.